All right, welcome to my photography masterclass. Happy Masterclass Friday, everybody. Let me just type a title real quick for another stream, another channel I'm doing this on. Better organization in Lightroom. That is exactly what we're doing today. So, welcome everybody. It is my pleasure to be streaming to you live once again here on Friday. For my masterclasses and Adobe's masterclasses from the Evangelist. So I usually kick things off with a hour-long masterclass on photography every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. However, I only get 30 minutes today. Well, not even 30 minutes, like 23 more minutes left because Jason Levine is doing a segment right after me on the video, not masterclass, but he's doing a video, help me. He's doing a daily challenge. That's it. I couldn't think of the words. He's doing a daily challenge. So with that said, he's been doing that all week and it comes in at 8:30 or 11:30 my time. So he's going to cut me off like a half hour earlier than I normally would get cut off. All right, so with that said, we'll make sure that we'll give Jason plenty of time, but we'll also make sure we give you plenty of time for the masterclass. So I see a bunch of people already joining me on various platforms. So thanks for joining me on Facebook, Dave Clayton, and people on Twitter and people on YouTube. Great that you're all here, but if you really want to participate in the chat, if you want me to see what you're saying or asking, head over to b.net/Adobe Live. So over there, I was pointing the wrong way. b.net/Adobe Live, that is where the actual chat is taking place that I'm monitoring. I can barely keep track of all the windows I've got open. So since we have a little bit of time, let me get into today's topic. Normally I would do a bunch of shout outs like from Sean, Jan, Tracy, Tim, Victoria, Jay. I see you all in the chat. Welcome. But let's, Bram, let's go ahead and dive right in. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop in just a second. But one of the things I want to point out about this topic, being better organized in Lightroom. Lightroom is about organization. It's all about being able to find your photos after the fact. In other words, it's just like if you have a drawer, like I have a couple of desk drawers here. And if I just throw a bunch of stuff in them over time, I kind of know stuff's in there. I don't know what, I can't remember what exactly is in there. I may have to move stuff around and scrounge around to find stuff. And if you're treating your photos like that, that's what it's going to be like when it comes time to find a photo you're looking for. So don't treat Lightroom like you would this drawer, like I do these drawers in my desk and other things. Treat it like a spot that you will always want to be able to quickly go to and find a photo. So for example, people are always amazed when they ask me for a specific photo, like of a family member or a friend or whatever. I could give it to them pretty quickly. And they're like, how did you get, like, they know I have the photo, but like, how did you get to it so fast? It's because the one place I am pretty organized is Lightroom. I may not be organized in my office. I may not be organized in my physical surroundings in a lot of cases. But when it comes to Lightroom, I can usually find what I'm looking for very, very quickly. All right, so let me explain what that means. Let me switch over to my desktop so you guys can see what I'm doing. And let's turn off the Adobe Live thing. So I've got Lightroom Classic open. And in Lightroom Classic, I've got, well, you have as well, your folders. You have three categories. You have all photographs. So all 240,000 photos, 246,000 photos I have. I have my folders, which is where those photos physically reside on my hard drives. So I've got a hard drive that's got a bunch of stuff. I've got a server that's got even thousands more on it. And then you have your collections, which is the third area. The first bit of advice I can give you, especially as a Classic user, stop trying to worry about organizing or finding, I shouldn't say organizing, finding things in folders. Folders they're important because that's where your photos are physically stored and located. But once you import or tell Lightroom to know where that folder is by importing those photos in, stop doing stuff in the folders. Because the job of the folder is to take the physical photos that you got off your camera, put them somewhere in a hard drive in a physical folder on that hard drive, so you'll be able to manage it at some point if you need to. So for example, if you went to Paris, because I saw some folks in the chat from Paris, and you did the classic Louvre pictures, you might have a folder called Paris 2018, or you might have a folder called Louvre 2018, or you might have a folder called Eiffel Tower 2018. And that's great. That's where all those photos go. Once you're done there, stop using that. In other words, don't go in there messing around anymore. Because what you really want to do is you want to use collections. I can't stress enough about using collections. Collections are life. They are really what makes Lightroom sing. So for example, I'm going to give you, I'm going to twirl up my hard drive, and I'm going to go down to my collections, and I've got a concerts collection set. So in my concerts collection set, I've got collections or concerts that I've photographed over the years. And I dabbled in concert photography. I wasn't trying to do it seriously. I just like concerts sometimes, back when we used to go to concerts. And I would photograph them if I was there. So it's not that I was trying to be a concert photographer. It's just, that's what I did while I was sitting there enjoying the music. So for example, years ago, I photographed, if we go back and find, 2011, I photographed Janet Jackson. I had great seats, and I got some, I felt like I was actually the concert photographer. I was up close and personal. I got some just amazing shots with it, actually a point and shoot camera, because that's all they would let you bring in if you weren't an official photographer of the concert. And these images are here. Now, the first thing I did was back then in 2011, because I wasn't as good at organization as I am now, I did bring them into a folder. They're in a folder called Janet Jackson. And then I made a collection called Janet Jackson Concert. And I put the images in that collection. One of the things I did not do that I just realized today that I didn't do back then, so someone's asking, are they all in RAW format? I don't remember what that camera shot back then. Yeah, they're all in RAW format. I had a point and shoot that shot RAW. But one of the things I didn't do back then, if you look closely at the names of those photos, they are whatever the camera named them back then. They're image 0564. That means nothing to me in 2020. That's, 9 years later. I don't know anything about what that number means. It means zero zilch to me. As I'm assuming it probably for most of you means nothing to you as well. So my first bit of advice, my second bit of advice, in addition to using the collection, my second bit of advice is rename your photos if you're a classic user. Now, if you're using the Lightroom Cloud version, you don't have the option to rename. So you have to rely on albums, which are the same as collections. But if you're a classic user, take that extra second to rename the photos after you've got them in, you've eliminated your bad ones, and now you got your keepers and you want to rename them. So here's how I would do that. I would go into that collection. I would select all. I'm just trying to find the select all under the menu because I would just hit Command A. But I would do a select all. And now that I've done that, I would go into the library menu and come down to rename photos. Now, what you rename them is up to you. But what I have set up here in my custom settings is I have if we edit that, I have it renaming custom text, meaning whatever I type, and a sequence number using 4 digits. So you could have a sequence number 1 digit, 2 digits, 3 digits, 4, or 5. The reason I like 4 is because I'm never usually going to have a shoot over 9,999 photos. I might have a shoot of 1,000 photos, 1,300 photos, but never over 10,000 in one shoot. So that assures me that I'm going to have a unique name for every photo. For example, if I just used 01, then 01, if I search for Janet Jackson 1, that could also find Janet Jackson 10 or Janet Jackson 11 or Janet Jackson 101. But with the 4 digits, if I search for 0001, there's only one 0001. There's only one 00 or 0100. So that's why I like the 4-digit name. But anyway, once you go in and do your rename, which I just canceled out of, so I can now call these Janet, and you can use an underscore, you can put it together, it doesn't really matter, but however you want. Janet Jackson, I only photographed her once, so I don't have to put a 1 or anything after it. Or I could do a 1 for the first concert I ever did of her. And then once I click OK, it will physically rename all the photos at once. All 222 photos are getting renamed on the hard drive. So it is not just doing that in Lightroom. It is doing it for real. It's renaming. Typos are your mortal enemy. They could be mine too, unless you're telling me I mistyped her name, which you never know, I could have. All right, so once it's done, and I did mistype her name, those photos are renamed. Now, why do I take that extra second to do that? Because in the off chance I can't find the folder, or I didn't make a collection or whatever, can't find it, I can just search for text Janet Jackson, and it will find all 222 of these photos. So that way, I don't have to worry about keywording, I don't have to worry about anything else. At a bare minimum, I can just type in the search for her name, and those photos are going to come up. So if I did a trip, if I did that trip to Paris, I might title those photos Paris, or Paris Louvre, or Paris Eiffel Tower, or whatever. So that way I can always find Paris, find Eiffel Tower, find whatever, instead of image 00643, which means nothing to me. I will never search for that because I will never remember those numbers. And also, because I've used different cameras through the years, those numbers really mean nothing. Because this image, whatever these used to be called, is from a camera I don't even use anymore. All right, so with that said, now I have unique names for every single photo with that 000 in front of it. So if I search for Janet Jackson 0002, that's the only photo that's going to come up. Now, the next thing is that people will tend to go through and start marking their photos of their favorites. They might use star ratings. They might use a pick flag. They might use a color label. So they've done all these things to that photo. So there's the pick flag, my green color label, and my 5 stars. So I've identified that as a favorite every way I could. So I'll have people say, well, I use a folder and I use 5 stars, and that way I can always go back to that folder and search for my 5 stars and find them. You could do that. But if you've taken the time to identify your favorites, why do you have to keep searching that collection or folder every single time? What I mean by that is, let's say I do it once. I go to attribute and I find my, let's get out of green, let's say I find my 5 stars. So those are all my 5-star photos I like so far. So I could select those five stars, and I could make a new collection, create collection, Janet Jackson favorites, and include those 5 photos, and I can even sync that with Lightroom or Lightroom in the cloud if I wanted to. All right, and put it in the concerts collection set. So now I've got that new collection. I've got all of her 222 in this collection, but if I just want to quickly get to the favorites, boom, there they are. I don't have to keep going to the search. I don't have to keep bringing up the metadata panel. I don't have to keep doing any of that because they're right there. And if I like a new one, I can either, I don't even have to mark it as a favorite with stars or anything. I could just, let's go find a different one. Let's say I liked this one. I can just drag that one into the favorites. So now it's just there, even though it doesn't have 5 stars or green or a pick flag, because this is my collection of favorite Janet Jackson photos. Now let's take it up a notch. Let's say I don't want to have to keep managing that process manually. I don't want to have to keep, or maybe I'm going to shoot another concert next week or next year. and I'm going to mark some of those as favorites. Well, rather than me having to constantly drag my favorites into that new collection, let's do it another way. Let's delete this collection. So I'm going to delete the collection. It does not delete the photos. And also having the photos in multiple collections does not take up any extra space or anything. So I'm back to that collection. Classic has one other feature I really, really, really love. So do you make a new collection for every shoot when you import? Absolutely, Scott. Collections are life. I don't live in folders. I live in collections. So not only do I make a new collection for every shoot I do, every set of images I import, I usually have 2 or 3 collections from that shoot. I'll have the broad collection of all the photos that I keep. I'll have the collection of my favorites. I'll have the collection of the ones I edited, so forth and so on. So I could end up with 2 or 3 collections per shoot because they don't cost anything. They don't add anything. They don't take up any extra space. And they let me quickly get to what I want. But if you don't want to manage that process manually, you can go in and create what's called a smart collection. And this is a classic only feature. So if you're using Lightroom in the cloud or mobile, you don't have this option. But if I do here, let's get rid of these. If I do a smart collection, I can call this smart collection favorite concert photos. I'm going to put it in the concert collection set, and then I'm going to give it some criteria. I could find all 5-star photos, but that's going to find every 5-star photo in my whole library. I don't want that. I do want 5 stars, but only if, let's add another piece of criteria by clicking the plus sign right there. Only if they are in source collection, in a collection with the word concert. As long as they exist in a collection with the word concert somewhere in that collection, it will only add my 5-star concert photos. So now I'll just click create. That will build a brand new collection of my Sting photos, my Janet Jackson photos, my Britney Spears photos, my Nicki Minaj photos because she was with Britney. So all of my 5 stars. Now, why the smart collection? Because a smart collection updates dynamically. So how many are in here now? There are 19 in here now, 19 5-star photos. So let's say I go back to Janet Jackson. I go back to that photo we liked, or I liked, the one where she was pointing, that one. Let me look at it. Oh yeah, I love that. Let's say I love that photo and I mark it 5 stars. I hit the number 5. Well, it automatically adds it as the 20th photo to favorite concert photos because it meets the criteria. It's in a collection that says concert and it's a 5-star photo, it automatically gets added. If I go to that 5-star photo or favorites collection again, and let's say I change one of these, like this one, it was a favorite, now it's only moderately a favorite, and I mark it 4 stars. Watch what happens. The minute I tap 4, it's going to disappear. Gone. Because it no longer meets the criteria. So it's no longer in this collection. It's still everywhere it used to be. It's just not here anymore. Correction, do you make a new catalog for each shoot? No, I have one catalog for everything. I got off the multiple catalogs years ago once Lightroom got fast enough to handle 246,000 photos. So I don't make new catalogs. One catalog for everything. Also because you can only sync one catalog at a time with Lightroom in the cloud. Okay, so that's just a bonus. Just remember you have smart collections and you can use them that way. Now let's go in and let's take a look at Lightroom, the cloud version. So Lightroom, the cloud version, there's some different terminology involved. So for example, if I go to my demo area, this would normally be called a collection set. In Lightroom Classic, it's called a folder, which is more confusing, I know. It's called a folder in the Lightroom Cloud or phone version, or mobile version, I should say. So when I twirl down the folder, aka collection set, it shows me all the albums, aka collection. So albums and collections are synonymous. they're the same exact thing. They do the same thing. They're for the same reason, but they're just called albums in the new version. Now, you notice in this folder, collection set, I have another folder, collection set, called Photography Masterclass. Because what I was running into is I started creating all these new albums for my Photography Masterclass, and they were just scattered everywhere. Like they were scattered amongst the rest of my demo collections. So I decided, well, if I ever need to refer back to a shoot we did in the Masterclass series, why not keep them all together? Why not put them all in the Masterclass, or I was going to say collection set folder, so that they're all immediately accessible to me. Now, there is an advantage that Lightroom in the cloud has for searching that Classic does not have. So I showed you some Classic advantages with Smart Collections. Now let me talk about an awesome advantage if you're using this version. In both versions, I could go in and I could go to keywords, and I could start typing keywords. I could type in flower. I could type in pink. I could type in whatever keywords I want. And I could start, if I knew what kind of flower that was, I could identify that as well. But I could start putting those in either version. And people spend an inordinate amount of time doing that. Why? So they could find them later based on those keywords. And I am not a keyword person. I used to be. I used to spend hours keywording photos. For that one off chance, I may use those keywords in a search. Car, blue, dress, orange, pink, whatever. And now I'm glad I didn't continue investing all that time, because the new cloud version uses Adobe Sensei to figure things out. So for example, if I go back to all my photos, and I literally go to all my photos. So now I'm in I only have 51,000 synced to the cloud. So I have 51,000 photos synced to the cloud, both from Classic and the cloud version, and ones I shot on my phone, so forth and so on. If I'm looking for waterfall shots, I know I shot some in Iceland, but I don't remember anywhere else I shot waterfalls. I'm sure I've shot waterfalls. I shot the big one, Niagara Falls. But I'm starting to forget, like, where else have I possibly shot waterfalls? So that's where keywords will come in. Because if I don't remember the name of the collection, because I don't remember where a waterfall was, and I didn't make a smart collection of all my waterfall shots, and I don't remember what cities or whatever I was in this version, I could go to my all photos and I could literally type in waterfall and hit enter, and it will go find every waterfall shot I ever shot, whether I keyworded it or not, because it's using artificial intelligence to know what a waterfall is and go find it. Now here's the kicker. If, let's say, because sometimes it's going to guess wrong. So far so good. These are all waterfalls. So far, so good. Great, 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 great. I'm just trying to know all the waterfalls. All right, this is a fountain. That's really not a waterfall. Okay, that's an example. So let's say, and that's my daughter, she's kind of sitting in front of a waterfall, so I'll let that one go. So let's say up to this point, these are all, and that's not a waterfall. That's kind of like a stream of water. So let's say up to this point, these were all waterfalls. And those other ones aren't. So I'm just going to select all of those here. And that's not a waterfall, so let's deselect that one. And okay, so I have all, and that's not a waterfall, that's a fountain. So I have all the waterfalls I want. Well, even though I used Adobe Sensei to find them, that doesn't mean that I want to keep having to use Adobe Sensei to find my waterfall shots. So now that I've used Adobe Sensei to find all the waterfalls, guess what? I can go make a new collection or new album. Create album, waterfalls. and include the 381 shots from wherever they were in the world that I shot waterfalls. Create. So that will create a, yes, yes, I had those 380. Just making sure. You sure you want to add 381 photos? Yes, I do. And here they all are at the bottom, waterfalls. And now I don't ever have to use that search again because I have a new album called Waterfalls. And if I did the same thing, even I couldn't do the search that way, but if I had done a search and found all the images in Classic, I could add the keyword and use that as a smart collection so that from now on, if I keyword a waterfall shot, it will add it to the smart collection. So lots of ways to find things in the cloud version, in both versions, but the cloud version is the one that has the ability to do the super search. Okay, guess what? I'm already out of time. Well, I just looked down. It's like I'm out of time. So with that said, cheers, everybody. Stay tuned for the Daily Creative Challenge with Jason Levine, who's going to be doing video. And don't be afraid of collections and don't go chasing waterfalls. All right. Bye, everybody.